Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today, following a successful members poll on the channel output, we're going to take a nostalgic look at Windows 98 using this, the compact Armada M300, which I got as part of a job lot of untested laptops a while ago. If you've not seen that video and you'd like to, it's just here. So let's get it installed and take a look. Back in May 1998, Microsoft released the catchily named Windows 98, some clever nomenclature there. It wasn't a groundbreaking operating system unlike Windows 95, and it wasn't supported by adverts from members of Friends.
Oh, pretty.
Oh, and no messy DOS buildup.
What is this, a paper towel commercial? There are 4 things you ought to know about Windows 95. It's easier, it's faster, it's more powerful, and it's got great compatibility.
Instead, this was much more of an evolution rather than a revolution, but it brought improved stability, better plug and play support, a significant amount of network enhancements, and of course inbuilt DVD support. Just like Windows 95, Windows 98 can be installed from floppy disks. However, instead of a paltry 15 disks, this would require 39 floppy disks, which is a lot to say the least. Of course, at the beginning of 1998, CDs were beginning to make a real impact on the world. Being able to store 650 meg on a single disk meant that you could use one install disk. Or you kind of could. You still needed a boot floppy. That is until 1999 and the release of Windows 98 Second Edition. This came on a bootable CD, so no floppies required. And it's that version that I'm going to install. The system requirements to run Windows 98 are pretty low, requiring a 486DX, running at a minimum clock speed of 66 MHz, 60 megabytes of RAM, and 195 megabytes of hard disk space. Obviously, that's just for the install. If you're going to add other things, you're going to need a bigger drive. But by 1998, a 2GB drive was pretty standard. As with Windows 11 now, there was a workaround so that you could actually get Windows 98 to install on a CPU as old as 13 years at the time on an i386. These started with clock speeds of 12 MHz, so I'm not recommending this, but I'm just saying with a workaround, it was possible. The average computer bought in 1995 would have had a CPU running at 70 to 100 MHz. It would also have had 8 megs of RAM, 0.5 to a gigabyte of storage, and of course a 28.8 kbs modem for connecting to the internet. What this really meant was that for most home users, all they needed was to upgrade the RAM and they could then install the latest operating system, which no doubt helped massively with the uptake of Windows 98, which sold an amazing 530,000 licensed copies within 4 days of launch and went on to sell an estimated 58 million copies. Bear in mind, it was probably intensely pirated as well, so there would have been hundreds of millions of users in the world by the end of its run. When I was at uni back in 1999, I owned a very old Toshiba satellite laptop with a 133 MHz processor and 16 meg of RAM, which I had Windows 98 Second Edition installed on. What this really meant was that for most office or organizational tasks, it was much faster for me to simply do them on my Scion and synchronize it than it was to wait for my computer to boot and open those programs and laboriously go through all those stages. Thankfully, the Armada comes with a 333 MHz Celeron. It also comes as standard with 64 meg of RAM, although this has been upgraded 320 megs of RAM, which is a lot for Windows 98. So things are going to be a lot more snappy when I run them on this. In fact, when I first got this and finally got it to boot, which took several attempts, it was actually pre-installed with Windows XP, which ran okay. Lucky for me, when I went on the Internet Archive, somebody had updated a full set of drivers for this laptop, which means that I've been able to get everything working, including the sound, which can be a real problem on these old computers. So let's take a look around. So let's boot it up and then we can take a look around Windows 98. So let's skip straight past this startup screen. And the only thing I've installed extra is Office, and of course I've updated all the drivers as I mentioned. So let's have a quick look around. So this is very intuitive. You press start, you've got the option to look at your programs. So we've got accessibility functions, communications, entertainment, which now includes CD players and things like that. Games, and we've got a selection of 4 games on here, not just solitaire. Then we've got our internet tools, because of course Windows 98 is very much focused around the internet. And system tools. So under system tools we've got our backups, character maps, clipboard viewers, compression agents, disk cleanup, disk fragmenter. We don't need to defrag these days because we all run SSDs, but this used to be a favourite pastime of mine if I had nothing better to do and wanted the computer to run a bit faster. Drive space, maintenance wizard, net watcher, resource meter, which tells us what we've got left, scan disk, schedule tasks, system information, and of course a system monitor. So the system monitor shows you various bits and bobs, and we would now do this from the task manager of course, but this is the version in Windows 98. Then under programs we've got our online services, so of course AOL was on everything at the time. We've got our startup options, so we've got Microsoft Fast Find, which obviously is for searching things, and Microsoft Office Starter Bar, which is on the side as you can see, and the Office Startup. And then we've got Explorer, DOS, and all the Office programs that we've installed. Under settings, if we go to Control Panel, this is where we can customize things. And this will all look very familiar to anyone who's used this in the past or uses a handheld PC, as it's based pretty much on Windows 95. Doing a right click, we can see the desktop as a web page. I don't even know why you'd want to do that. You can of course customize the desktop, which I've already done. I've put a new image on, obviously. You've got your settings for the screen, and of course you can have an external monitor. This allows you to alter the icons for various bits and bobs. The appearance, you can change all the colours of your boxes. Screensavers, and there's quite a lot of screensavers in here, including one of my favourites, which is this one. And we'll just preview that. Screensavers aren't something we worry about these days, but back in the days of CRT screens, they were very important to prevent screen burn. Of course, while this is very nice, this laptop is from 1999, and so it would make a lot of sense to have this as a screensaver instead, since 1999 represents, in the words of Agent Smith,
which is why the Matrix was redesigned to this, the peak of your civilization. And I say your civilization.
And of course you can change the background, which I've already done. So it is pretty snappy. Let's see how long it takes just to open up a Word document. And of course this is Windows 97, but you can see it almost boots instantly. That's much faster than it is on my Windows 11 laptop. So as you can see, the system's very snappy. When it comes to Word documents and Excel and all the other bits and bobs, nothing really has changed as time's moved on. We still want to basically write text. So for Office needs, this is perfectly adequate. And as you've already seen, it's extremely fast. So yeah, we'll save that. And again, if I open up an Excel sheet, instantly it appears on the desktop, and near instantly it opens. So actually using Office 97 is way faster than using Office 2010 or later on my laptop. Of course, the real reason to own a computer like this is to play games. So no surprise, I've already installed Doom. And I think that's quite enough of that, so we'll come out of there. I do wonder how well it will run this though, so let's install it. So it does say that this requires a 350 MHz Pentium 2 or Athlon. We're actually running a Centrino at 333, so hopefully it'll be fast enough. Minimum requirement 64 meg of RAM, but we've got 320, so we'll be alright on that. Sadly, I couldn't get this game to work. Instead, it just altered all my graphics settings before it crashed. So I've also installed this, Tomb Raider 3, which it says will run on a 166 Pentium with only 16 meg of RAM, although it recommends 32, but we have 320, so it should run pretty smooth. Oh, I just have to remember what all the controls are. Okay. Oof, that was lucky. Oh, what we found here. Also lucky I didn't get just squashed. Help, I can't see. Oh, I'm dead. Okay, but the point is, it works. I have fond memories of syncing my Scion 5 with the Windows 98 machines and helping my dad install drivers and peripherals and things like that. As I'm sure many of you do, since the demographic of this channel is such that most of you will have used Windows 98. Although Windows 95 and then Windows 98 were built with the internet in mind, you have to bear in mind it was still very much in its infancy. Encyclopedias still came on CDs and DVDs, and if you've not seen Rich's random retro review of the encyclopedias that were available, I'll pop a link below. So bear in mind it is 2024, nearly 2025. Why on earth would anyone be using a Windows 98 laptop? Well, from my point of view, it's so that I can synchronize some of these older devices. It's much easier dealing with devices that were designed for serial on an operating system that had serial built in. There are still companies with legacy machines that require Windows 98, and so there are actually still companies producing Windows 98 machines, and Linus did a video on this. I'll pop a link below. The other reason you might want to use Windows 98 is simply to get rid of distractions. distractions. There's no point putting Windows 98 online as it's very limited, and if you're not online, there's very few distractions to be had when you sit down at your computer to write a document, for example. I think for most users, Windows 98 laptops and PCs are mainly either for nostalgic reasons or for playing older games. Most older games will work under XP with a little bit of tinkering, but not all of them. And certainly when it comes to Windows 10, there's an awful lot of games that are just incompatible. If you have memories of using a Windows 98 computer at work, at home, pop a comment below. Let me know what was good about it, what you thought was bad about it, and whether you'd use it over a modern operating system these days. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. A big thanks to all my viewers, commenters, subscribers, and of course the members who directly support the channel. As always, my name's Hugh. This is Handheld Computing. Thanks for watching.